Every so often, once or twice a year, I get an email from one of my subscribers telling me that something weird is going on in the sky. Usually it's some kind of light or glow. The most recent one was from a few weeks ago. It was from someone in Brazil who said they could see this unnatural orange glow in the sky over Sao Paulo. I used to just reply and move on, but today I want to do something different. Today I want to write you a story about a mysterious glow in the sky. And I'm not talking about the northern lights or bioluminescence or anything like that. This is something different, something that turns out to be very bad. It all begins when the world is on the verge of being remade. The year is 2047, and you've heard the warnings. Scientists have been saying it for decades, but only now are people really listening. The ice caps are melting faster than expected, and rising sea levels will soon inundate coastal cities. Global temperatures are breaking records in heat waves. Floods and droughts are devastating crops. Conflicts are raging across the planet and resources are becoming scarce. Many believe that humanity is on a collision course with disaster. But then one night, when everyone is feeling particularly glum, something happens to lift their spirits. Strange lights streak across the skies above every major city on Earth. At first, people think it's a spectacular meteor shower. They grab their phones and cameras and run outside to take pictures. They post their videos online and use hashtags like #meteorshower and #endofdays. Everyone is too busy marveling at the beautiful streaks of light in the sky. People cheer and scream and dance. Some cry tears of joy. "This can't be real," one woman whispers. "It has to be a dream." Tens who then leave just as quickly as they appeared. The streaks of light stop. They hover in the sky in strange geometric patterns. People look at their phones, then back at the sky. What was supposed to be a beautiful once-in-a-lifetime experience is starting to feel a little creepy. Elena pushes her phone into her pocket and grabs her taxi. She has a shift to cover. She drives past the glowing lights, willing them out of her peripheral vision. But the more she focuses on the road, the more she sees the light reflecting in shop windows and car windshields. Soon, she can't escape it. Elena pulls over, gets out of her taxi and leans against it as she films the spectacle. This can't be real. Back in New York City, thousands of people are still taking pictures of the lights. They don't know what to make of them. Some say it's a good sign, others a bad one. There's no way of knowing for sure. The lights remain suspended in the sky, their meaning a mystery. In Lagos, power flickers and dims. No one seems to know why. In Tokyo, the crowds fall silent, their eyes fixed on the bright lights above them. Cell phone screens reflect the strange glow in the faces of those gathered below. It's like something out of a horror movie, something from a nightmare. At the United Nations headquarters in New York, every available screen is tuned to the same thing, the live stream from Times Square. Ambassadors and diplomats whisper urgently in hushed tones. An aide leans over the shoulder of the U.S. ambassador and points to the sky. He looks up, his face grave. The U.S. ambassador reaches for the phone on his desk and dials a familiar number. In Moscow, the Russian president sits alone in his office. Outside, snow falls heavily on the Kremlin. Inside, the air is warm and the room is dimly lit. He watches the live stream from Red Square on a large flat-screen TV. His face is expressionless, but his eyes betray him. He's worried. On a remote Pacific island, a man comes out of his hut to find his satellite internet connection is down. It's been down for hours. He's tried restarting the router, but nothing seems to work. He walks over to his window and looks at the strange lights in the sky. He doesn't understand what they mean, but he has a feeling that they're somehow connected to his internet outage. A young girl runs out of her house and into the street. She stops when she sees the glow in the sky. She looks around to see if anyone else has noticed, but they're all too busy looking at their phones. She looks back at the sky and starts to cry. "Why aren't we looking up there?" she asks herself. "They're watching us." She runs home and grabs her mother's phone. It's the only phone she can find with a charger. She plugs it in and starts recording. She stands on a chair and points the phone at the sky. "They're watching us," she says. That's all she has to say. The rest will come later. Her video goes viral almost immediately. Within hours, millions of people are watching it. Some think it's cute, others sinister. The girl's video is played on a loop at the bottom of every news channel. Every few minutes, the camera pans up to show the strange lights in the sky. Still, no one knows what to make of them. Back in New York City, Elena makes her way through the crowd. She wants to get away from the lights, but there's nowhere to go. They're everywhere. She walks past a hot dog stand and buys a cheap sausage. It doesn't taste very good. She throws the trash on the ground and walks away. No one cleans up after themselves anymore. She hears a commotion in an alleyway and ducks under some fire escape stairs to investigate. A group of people are huddled together watching a live stream on a phone. Elena takes the phone and looks at it herself. The video shows a massive fleet of spaceships descending towards Earth. The spaceships are huge, their hulls shimmering in the light of a distant sun. The camera pans up to show the full scale of the invasion force. Thousands of spaceships are descending towards Earth. Their lights pierce the darkness like 1,000 suns. Elena drops the phone and screams. The people in the alley rush forward to grab the phone, but Elena stops them. "Don't touch it," she says. "Let me show you something." She points up to the sky. The lights are gone. In their place are hundreds of massive ships hovering silently in the darkness. Elena backs away as the ships begin to descend towards Earth. The leader of the group steps forward and grabs Elena by the arm. Their beams pierce the darkness, illuminating the terrified faces of those who stand in their path. "We have to get out of here," he says. Elena looks back at the descending spaceships. "There's nowhere to hide," she says. "They're everywhere," soothingly. Oh, a loud crash echoes through the alley. The group looks towards the sound and sees one of the spaceships descending rapidly towards them. Its hull is scorched and smoking. It crashes to the ground with a deafening roar and explodes in a fireball. Debris hurls through the air and showers down on the terrified onlookers. Elena screams and throws herself to the ground. When she looks up, she sees the other spaceships hovering in the sky. They're not coming to help. They're watching, waiting. And then she sees it. One of the spaceships opens up, and a single figure emerges. The figure descends slowly towards the Earth. As it gets closer, Elena can make out the details of its form. It's humanoid in shape, but much larger than any human. Its skin is a sickly green color, and its eyes glow red in the darkness. Elena screams and covers her face with her hands. The alien steps out of the spaceship and begins to walk towards the camera. The people in the alley cower in fear as the alien approaches them. The camera shakes as the alien looms closer and closer. Then everything goes black. Elena could hear screams from inside her apartment. People were running through the street, some banging on doors and windows. It was like a horror movie come to life, except she was living it. She tried to call her parents. Their phone went straight to voicemail. Her sister didn't answer either. She dialed again and again, but they were all unreachable. She stepped outside and gasped. Orbs had solidified their presence. They hung in the sky like ominous moons, casting an eerie twilight over the city. She wasn't alone. Then the nightmare really began. Elena watched in disbelief as people emptied supermarket shelves. The sight triggered memories of the pandemic when toilet paper became a prized commodity. But now it was different. This wasn't about hoarding or fear of shortages. People were fighting over toilet paper. Literally, fisticuffs erupted over the bathroom essentials. Shoppers shoved each other, desperate to grab what they could. A man in a Hawaiian shirt decked another guy with a roll of toilet paper. It landed a solid hit, sending the roll flying. The recipient picked it up and ripped it into 2 pieces, tossing one half to a child who took off down the aisle. The man in the Hawaiian shirt just stared in stunned silence. Her phone buzzed. Her sister. Elena answered, her voice shaking. "I'm trying to get home, but the highway's jammed. Everyone's freaking out. There are cars everywhere. I can't move." Her sister's tone was manic. Elena could hear glass shattering in the background. "What "What is that?" she screamed. Then the line went dead. Outside, Elena saw long lines of cars crawling along the highway. The scene reminded her of their family road trips to the lake when she was little, except this time it was a mass exodus. And as she watched, a news helicopter zoomed across the frame. The image cut to a news anchor inside a studio. "With every passing hour, more reports are coming in of major highways being clogged by thousands of abandoned vehicles," the anchor said. "People seem to be abandoning their cars and running into the countryside. We have similar scenes at the airports. Travelers were trying to flee the country, but international airports have been shut down due to the unprecedented number of UFOs in the area." A scientist with wild, disheveled hair appeared on the screen next to the anchor. "We are baffled," he said, looking directly at the camera. "No known physics explains this." That was the moment Elena realized there was no escaping this. She needed to bunker down, but before she could retreat inside, something caught her eye. Amid the chaos, there was a man walking toward her. He was tall and lean, with a sharp jawline and piercing gray eyes. But what struck Elena the most was his composure. In a sea of panicking people, he seemed calm. He observed the crowd, his gaze steady. As he drew closer, Elena couldn't help but notice his clothes. They were dusty and worn, as if he'd been traveling for days. His boots were caked in mud and his backpack was yet there was a strange confidence about him. "Excuse me," Elena called out, hoping he could help her. He turned, acknowledging her with a faint nod. "Can you tell me what's going on?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Do you know why everyone's leaving? Where are they going?" He studied her for a moment, his gaze intense. "You shouldn't be here," he finally said, his voice a low rumble. "Confused," Elena replied. "I live here. I can't just leave." He shook his head slowly. "This place will become a ghost town soon enough," he murmured, his eyes distant as if he were seeing a vision. "You won't be safe here." His words sent a chill down Helena's spine. Before she could respond, he continued, "You need to get out while you still can, while the roads are passable." But Elena couldn't bring herself to leave. Her home, her work, her life was here. Besides, where would she go? The surrounding states were experiencing the same phenomenon. It wasn't as if she could just drive away from the problem. The man seemed to read her mind. "There is a place," he began, then paused as if reconsidering. Finally he said, "Meet me back here in 1 hour. Be prepared to leave. Bring only what you can carry." Before Elena could ask any questions, he turned and disappeared into the surging crowd. Elena stood there, torn between fear and curiosity. The man's words echoed in her mind. There is a place. Was he leading her to safety, or was there something else in his cryptic message? With the first orb passing directly overhead, its shadow enveloping her in darkness, Elena made her decision. She was going with him. A nowhere later, she found the man leaning against her car. He looked at her, assessing her with those intense eyes. "Ready?" he asked quietly. Elena nodded, forcing herself to meet his gaze. Beside her, the man opened the passenger door. "Get in," he said. Hesitantly, Elena slid into the seat. As she did, she noticed a glint of metal beneath the man's jacket. Was it a weapon? She couldn't quite tell. The engine rumbled to life and the car pulled away from the curb. The man didn't speak, but his grip on the steering wheel was firm and confident. Soon, they were swallowed by the dense forest, the towering trees forming a thick canopy overhead, blocking out the eerie glow of the orbs. The air grew heavy with anticipation. The silence in the car was deafening. Elena fought the urge to scream as the car lurched over rough terrain. Branches whipped against the windows, leaves scurrying like frightened animals. The dense foliage pressed against the car, making it feel like they were driving through a green tunnel. Suddenly, the car veered sharply, coming to a halt on a dirt road. The man turned to Elena, his expression grim. "Stay here," he instructed, opening the car door. Before Elena could protest, he was gone, disappearing into the undergrowth. Fear coiled in Elena's stomach, but she knew she couldn't stay in the car. Pushing her door open, she stepped out, her legs shaky. The woods loomed before her. dark and menacing. Elena hesitated, the man's words echoing in her ears. Stay here. But where was he going? And would he return? She decided to follow him. As she moved deeper into the woods, Elena's heart pounded in her chest. Dot each snapped twig. Each rustle of leaves made her jump. The air grew colder, dampening her skin with an icy touch. Just as she began to lose hope of finding the man, she spotted a faint light ahead. Relief washed over her. She quickened her pace, the light beckoning like a beacon in the darkness. As she neared the light, Elena's heart skipped a beat. It wasn't the soft glow of a campfire. It was the harsh glare of headlights. The beam cut through the darkness, revealing a battered pickup truck. Beside it sat the man from the diner. He was joined by several others, their faces grim and determined. The man spotted Elena and beckoned her closer. "I'm sorry it took me so long to find you," he said, his voice gruff but kind. "I wanted to ensure your safety." "What's happening?" Elena whispered, her gaze darting between the man and the truck. "Where are we going?" "We're heading north," the man replied. "There's a community of survivors. It's our best chance at surviving this." Elena nodded silently, understanding dawning on her. These strangers, brought together by circumstance, were united in their fear and uncertainty. The woods echoed with their hushed voices, their whispers blending with the eerie glow of the orbs in the night sky. Elena felt a surge of adrenaline mixed with apprehension. As she climbed into the truck bed, settling beside a woman with a baby, she realized that this journey was only the beginning. The road ahead was fraught with challenges and unknown, but for now, she was with people who understood her terror, who were also fighting to survive in a world that was quite literally ending. With no attacks yet, the waiting game has become a torture. Elena barricaded herself in her apartment. No longer does she venture to the window to look out into the city. She doesn't need to. The view is everywhere and nowhere. All around her, the signs are gone. Faces pale and drawn in the flickering light of their screens, whispering tales of terror in the night. The silence continues to press in on her, growing louder and more insistent. A constant reminder of the presence just outside her door, waiting, watching. Sometimes during the night, when the wind is right, she can hear their metallic scrape on the buildings. A slow, deliberate grinding. It sounds like fingernails on a chalkboard, nails on a coffin. Her phone battery is almost depleted and she hasn't charged it. The charger is in her backpack with the rest of her meager supplies. Water purification tablets, first aid kit, crowbar, a small hatchet, and a roll of duct tape. She hasn't slept well lately and often wakes in the night, heart pounding, breath shallow. Her dreams are filled with falling, always falling, tumbling through endless darkness toward a cold, uncaring void. Her gaze drifts to the boarded-up windows. Sleep won't come. Fear keeps her awake, sharp and watchful. The silence is broken only by the hum. Then there's a knock, 3 sharp raps on her door. She freezes, listening. Silence. Was it the wind? She hopes it was the wind. But what if it wasn't? What if someone is out there, watching, waiting? What if they know that she's here? Elena takes a deep breath, trying to calm the panic rising in her chest. She forces herself to lie down in her bed, pulls the thin blanket over her, huddling in the corner like a frightened animal. The hum is constant, relentless. She closes her eyes, willing herself to sleep, to escape the waking nightmare. But sleep won't come. Days blur together, then nights turn into days. Elena's world shrinks to the 4 walls of her apartment. She watches the seasons change outside. Spring turns to summer. The leaves turn from green to gold and red. Winter Erebus, blanketing the city in white. Elena doesn't go to the window to watch. She knows what she will see. Empty streets, abandoned cars, nature reclaiming the city. She is alone in her world, cut off from the outside, sealed off from the rest of humanity. Schools have closed, the stock market frozen. Trading halted indefinitely. Rumors swirl through the internet forums. Alien signals detected. Transmissions intercepted. Government confirms extraterrestrial contact. World leaders meeting in secret. Others believe they are a curse, harbingers of death and destruction. One evening, Elena's phone lights up. It's a video call from her brother. His face, haggard and unshaven, stares back at her. Behind him, she can see the familiar surroundings of their childhood home. "Elena," he says, his voice strained. "We need to talk." "What is it?" she asks, her voice raspy from disuse. "Mom and Dad, they left. They took the RV and headed west." A bitter laugh escapes Elena's lips. "Didn't take long." "What do you mean?" "They left because they couldn't take it anymore. The waiting, the fear, the silence." "So now what? What are you going to do?" Elena aches. "We don't even know what we're dealing with." Elena whispers, "Look, I know you're scared, Elena, but we can't keep hiding. We need to do something." "Like what?" "How?" Her brother hesitates. "There's a group, a militia. They've set up defenses on the outskirts of town. And if that doesn't work, if they find us, then we die anyway. Might as well die trying to live another day than sitting here and waiting to die. You have to choose, Elena. Do you want to fight or do you want to hide?" Outside, the wind swirls fallen leaves across the empty street. Elena turns away from the window. The decision has been made for her. Civil-eyed. The government is silent. Radio, television, and internet broadcasts have ceased. Elena searches for answers in the vastness of space, but finds none. The stars seem indifferent, uncaring. She feels so small, so insignificant in the face of the cosmos. She lets the silence envelop her, pressing in, suffocating her. She welcomes it. She needs it. She can hear it in her ears. In air dreams, she sees the changes in the landscape, the growth of weeds and the cracks of the pavement, the slow decay of the buildings. One day, Elena hears a noise. She freezes, listening. It's a knock, slow and deliberate. She presses her ear against the door, listening intently. There it is again. Another knock, slow and deliberate. She wants to scream, to cry out, but no sound comes. She knows she must open the door, but her body won't move. But the knocking has stopped. Elena stands in the doorway, listening intently. She can smell the flowers blooming, the trees growing. She can hear the birds singing, the wind blowing. She can feel the sun on her skin, the rain on her face. For the first time in a long time, Elena feels alive, and then she smiles. The silence is deafening, but it's not empty. It's full of possibilities, full of hope. The silence is a canvas on which she can paint her future. It's a future that may not be bright, but it's hers. As long as we're not in each other's way, what does it matter if they take me or if they take you? It was a day after Labor Day weekend in 2023 when the world changed. It started subtly enough. There were reports of blackouts in certain areas, but people assumed these were just some freak power grid failures. Elena's phone died mid-call as she sat down to dinner with her boyfriend and her parents. She saw a beam of pure white light pierce through the night sky right outside their window. Assuming that whatever it was had overloaded the grid, she tried calling her parents' friend next door, the old man who always kept his porch light on and his door unlocked. But the call went straight to voicemail. Feeling uneasy, Elena decided to go check on him. Meanwhile, across the globe, people were losing their minds. From China to France to Brazil, phones were dying. Screens flashing the dreaded searching symbol as an ominous silence descended upon the cities. Even those whose phones were still functional were growing alarmed as one by one, their local news channels lost power and went off the air. Tosa were able to access social media feeds were bombarded with images and videos of other people less live streams, all showing the same thing. An enormous glowing beam of light ripping through the darkness, snatching people from their homes and cars and leaving behind only stunned faces and desperate cries. Back home, Elena flung her front door open. Mr. Henderson's lights were off, but she could hear his dog barking frantically inside. Panicked, Elena tried calling out to him, but there was no answer. Suddenly, the porch light flickered back on. Startled, Elena took a step back and pressed her back against the door frame. A moment later, the door creaked open and a figure stepped out into the light. It was Mr. Henderson, but he wasn't alone. Beside him stood a woman Elena recognized as one of her neighbors from down the street. The woman was trembling, her eyes wide with terror. "Elena," she stammered, "I need your help." Just then, another beam tore through the night sky, bathing the neighborhood in an eerie glow. The woman screamed and collapsed onto the grass. Elena rushed to her side, kneeling beside her and asking desperately, "What happened?" But the woman didn't answer. Instead, she stared blankly ahead and began speaking in a language Elena didn't recognize. Her words were rapid and frantic, like a plea being sent out into the vast emptiness of space. "Tend soothingly." The woman's body jerked violently and she slumped over, her eyes now vacant and soulless. Elena recoiled in horror as the woman's skin began to turn a sickly shade of green, her face contorting in ways that made Elena's stomach churn. At that moment, Elena's phone, which had been dead just moments before, suddenly flickered back to life. With shaking hands, she dialed 911, but the call didn't go through. The line was dead. Looking back at her neighbor, Elena saw a strange symbol seared onto her forehead, a symbol that looked disturbingly similar to the one she had seen emblazoned on the sides of the beams. Elena felt a surge of fear mixed with determination. She needed to get away from here. But where could she go, and how could she possibly outrun something that could snuff out entire cities with a single blast? As Elena grappled with her mounting terror, chaos erupted at a gas station in Ohio. A fight broke out between two men, both accusing the other of stealing the last can of gasoline. It was the same story at pharmacies across the country. People were stocking up on whatever they could find, with many resorting to fighting over empty shelves. Some fled their homes, abandoning everything behind them. Others barricaded themselves indoors, sealing their windows and taping up their doors. The lucky ones managed to contact their loved ones, sharing their fears and making final goodbyes before the inevitable blackout that would surely follow. The beams from above were real. One message read, "They came from my brother, Law." Another said, "My city is gone. The streets are filled with debris and screams. I don't know where everyone has gone." Fear turned to anger as accusations flew. Was this some new form of government control? Had the aliens come for our leaders? Why did they target the cities? What did they want from us? Amidst the escalating chaos, one piece of footage from Brazil went mega-viral. In the video, a father desperately ran through the streets, calling out for his daughter who had vanished along with several others in broad daylight. His cries echoed the fear and uncertainty, gripping the hearts of millions worldwide. 2 days had passed since the beams descended. Elena hadn't slept, eaten, or spoken more than a dozen words. She spent the entire time watching the live streams, studying every move, every sound, trying to glean any bit of insight into what was happening. Now, huddled beneath a threadbare blanket on her living room floor, she watched as another beam sliced through the night. When it reappeared, she saw something. Hanging from its tip was a human figure, dressed in a dark suit. The figure swayed gently, strapped to the beam like a rag doll. Their arms dangled limply by their sides, and their head lolled at an unnatural angle. Suddenly, Elena's eyes widened. She scrambled to her feet and dashed to the window. Through the glass, she saw a man staggering toward her house. He was disoriented, his clothes torn, and his face pale and drawn. As he drew closer, Elena could make out the symbol seared into his forehead. It was the same one that had appeared on her neighbor. Relief flooded Elena. Someone else had returned. Maybe they could help each other figure out what was going on. Maybe they could even help each other escape. But when Elena reached the man, he wasn't alone. Behind him, following closely, was another figure, almost like a shadow. The newcomer had the same vacant stare and sickly green skin. Elena backed away, her heart pounding. But as she turned to flee, the man grabbed her arm. "You have to come with me," he rasped, his voice hoarse and unfamiliar. "They're coming for you. You have to hide." Before Elena could respond, the man yanked her toward a waiting car and bundled her inside. Then, without a word, he slammed his foot down on the gas pedal and sped away. The driver weaved through the deserted streets, his eyes darting from side to side. "Where are we going?" Elena asked, her voice shaking. "They'll be looking for me," the man replied, his gaze fixed on the road ahead. "I know a place we can hide there." Elena noticed a wild look in his eyes, a manic gleam that spoke of someone who had already lost their grip on reality. Taking a deep breath, Elena forced herself to calm down. She needed to focus on the task at hand, to be strong for herself and for the memory of her parents. She had to keep moving. Elena stumbled out of the car and gasped. Before her lay a sprawling underground complex that seemed to stretch on forever. The driver hurried ahead, disappearing into the darkness. Elena hesitated for a moment, the weight of her decision pressing down on her, but there was no turning back. With a deep breath, she stepped forward and ventured into the unknown. Inside, Elena found countless others who had sought refuge in the bunker, each with their own story of loss and survival. Some had lost loved ones to the beams. Others had witnessed bizarre, unexplainable phenomena in the aftermath of the blackouts. Elena shared what she had seen, heard, and experienced, hoping that together they could unravel the mystery of what was happening. Days turned into weeks, the outside world forgotten. Elena and the others formed a community, sharing their skills and resources to ensure their survival. Elena taught medical skills, drawing on her experience as a nurse. Others shared their knowledge of engineering, agriculture, and security. Together, they adapted to their subterranean existence, building a life underground. One evening, a group gathered around a makeshift campfire, their faces illuminated by the flickering flames. Elena, now a seasoned survivor, listened intently as a new arrival shared his tale. He spoke of witnessing strange lights in the sky and of finding his family missing after the power returned. "Then I saw it," he whispered, his voice hushed. A message scrawled across the sky, a warning. All eyes turned to him, eager to hear the message he had seen. The man closed his eyes, trying to recall the words. "The test," he finally uttered. "It's done. Wait for the light." As his words echoed in the cavernous space, a stunned silence fell over the group. Could it be possible that they were being observed, tested by an intelligence beyond their own? Was the light their salvation or their damnation? Elena felt a chill run down her spine. Could this be the key to understanding the cryptic signs they had seen? Or was it just another piece of the puzzle that would lead them deeper into the darkness? The message hung in the air, a haunting reminder of their precarious situation. Whatever the test entailed, they were in the final moments of its execution. The question was, would they emerge from it whole or broken? If they were indeed being watched, what would the outcome be? Would they pass or fail? The answer lay dormant in the darkness, waiting to be revealed. In the season finale, Elena is forced to leave her home and join a rooftop prayer group. She knows she needs help to survive the alien abduction epidemic sweeping the country. But can she also reconcile her scientific mind with their faith-based mission? Will she find answers or only more questions? Let's find out. Previously on the In-Between, Elena was at her lowest point when she learned that her boyfriend Theo had been abducted. While they were on a date, her mother had been taken too, along with almost everyone she knew. And now the only family member left was her little sister Luna, who wouldn't stop asking where their parents were. Elena's fear of losing her sister drove her to Dr. Patel's safe house in the Arizona desert, one of the few places immune from the abductions. But it was only a temporary reprieve. When Elena was finally able to speak to her sister again, she could hear the fear in her voice. "This one is different." It seems almost hesitant, almost confused. It scans them, probes them, then drifts away slowly. But Elena looks at the sky with suspicion. She says, "That was no act of God. That was a machine, and machines can be hacked." As Elena walks away, she turns back to look at the church. Suddenly, The familiar drone of the beams cuts through the air. Elena drops to the ground and pulls some bushes over her head. As she looks up between the branches, she sees the beam hovering above them. It doesn't move or advance. She thinks it might be broken. Could this be the end? Has the machine finally malfunctioned? Elena awakens to find herself lying on a rooftop. Disoriented, she sits up and notices that she's not alone. A tall, thin man with a scraggly beard approaches her. Elena, still confused and a bit frightened, asks where she is and what's going on. Elena realizes that they're all running from the abductions. "Hoost, light sir." Joseph offers Elena some water and leads her to a corner of the roof where several people are kneeling in prayer. She doesn't share their faith, but she's desperate for help and not above accepting any offer of safety. Suddenly, one of the men kneeling in prayer lets out a shout of joy. Elena feels a sense of awe and wonder, but she's still not sure what to make of it. A hush falls over the crowd as they wait for it to reveal its message. Elena recognizes the voice from the recordings left behind by the abductors. Now, as she looks around at the faces of the people on the roof, she sees that they're all illuminated by an otherworldly light. The voice continues, "I will bring you peace in your time of need, for I know your suffering. I am your salvation." Elena feels a surge of emotion. Could this be the answer she's been looking for? Is this the sign of hope she's been waiting for? Suddenly, the orb begins to shake violently. The voice becomes distorted and the light starts to flicker. People on the roof cry out in alarm as the orb's message turns sinister. "I am all around you." Elena realizes that they've made a terrible mistake. She tries to warn them, but they don't listen. Elena screams for them to run, to hide, but they just stand there mesmerized, as if under a spell. Just as Elena watches in horror, the orb lunges toward the nearest person, wrapping itself around his body like a serpent. The man screams in terror, thrashing wildly, but he's trapped. The orb's tendrils tighten around him, draining the life out of him. Elena runs for cover as the orb turns its attention to the next victim. She knows she can't fight it, but she can't bear to watch any longer. When she finally gathers the courage to emerge from her hiding spot, the roof is empty. She feels a sense of dread and foreboding. What does it all mean? Why did the orb turn on them? Where did everyone go? Elena looks up just in time to see it lock onto her. Then she wakes up, disoriented. Elena slowly opens her eyes and finds herself lying on the ground. Elena sits up and notices that the beam is hovering above them. It's not moving or advancing. She thinks maybe they've been saved. Elena screams and tries to crawl away, but the beam follows her, keeping her in its sights. Elena dares to peek out from behind her hands and sees that the beam is shaking violently. Then it does something she never expected. As the dust settles and the smoke clears, she looks around and sees that the beam has vanished. Elena stands up and looks around frantically for an answer. "Elena, is that you?" She turns around and sees the tall, thin man from the roof, Joseph, kneeling next to a pile of rubble. Elena demands answers, but Joseph doesn't know any more than she does. As Elena helps Joseph sift through the debris, she can't shake the feeling that they're being watched. Elena grabs Joseph's arm and points to the sky. The beam lunges toward them, shattering the silence. Elena and Joseph scream as they run for cover, desperately trying to escape the wrath of the machine. They're hiding behind fortified walls while the world burns. As the United Nations debated in chaos, world leaders argued over peace versus war. Paranoia has set in. Everyone is accusing everyone else of secret pacts and backroom deals. Meanwhile, Elena, who we first introduced you to in this video, has become a viral survivor and she's leaking what she calls insider whispers to her millions of followers. But the truth is, no one really knows what's going on inside that room. NATO is preparing strikes on multiple fronts, but doubts are growing that it will make a difference. And then, just as we were about to go to press, a leaked memo from a high-ranking official hinted at something shocking. It appears that there are plans in place for Ark escape ships for the elites to flee to when it is all over. The public is being kept in the dark while the elites make their escape. They may be behind fortified walls, but our world leaders are panicking as the facade of peace is crumbling. In today's episode, we go inside the chambers where decisions about your life and death are being made. We hear how the UN is fracturing over war and peace. Paranoia is growing with each passing day. And a leaked memo has revealed the shocking truth that no one knew. Behind closed doors, world leaders are making life or death decisions. But what are they really up to? Let's find out. The United Nations Security Council session began like any other. Then it took a turn. It was supposed to be a routine meeting to discuss Ukraine, but it ended up shattering into a war of words between Russia and the West. Both sides hurled accusations, each convinced that the other was planning something sinister. Russia believes NATO is preparing a dirty bomb. The West thinks Russia's playing the victim to divert attention from its failures. All of this while the real threat looms large. World War III. As tensions rise, so does paranoia. Every move, every statement is dissected. Every meeting is seen as a secret pact. Take, for instance, the recent high-level meeting in Austria. European officials met, discussed the situation in Ukraine, but Russia believes there was more to the meeting, that a secret deal was struck, and it's not entirely baseless. You see, as the war rages, Europe is divided. Eastern European nations want to hit back, but Germany and Austria are reluctant. They want peace. So what if a compromise was reached? What if Austria and Germany pushed for peace talks while the others prepared for strikes? Russia believes this is a betrayal. Meanwhile, the West is convinced that Russia is planning something big. It's been talking about a dirty bomb, a false flag attack, maybe even using radioactive materials to create a big explosion. The paranoia is palpable. Accusations are flying, but no one really knows what's up the other sleeves. Now add this to the mix. A survivor. That's right. Elena. The woman who survived the building collapse in Turkey is now an overnight sensation. She's become what they call a viral survivor. She spoke to the media, shared her ordeal, and now she's sharing what she heard inside the Ruble. According to her, people were whispering about a big explosion, a massive blast that shook the building. When rescue workers arrived, they found her and other survivors. But this explosion, it was never real. So what does it all mean? Is this a sign of things to come? Could this be a glimpse into our collective future? Well, here's what we do know. NATO's preparing strikes against Russia, but doubts are growing. Questions are being asked. Some want proof, others want more time. And why not? This could change the course of the war, even lead to World War III. So it's natural to have doubts. But amidst this chaos, something else is brewing. A leaked memo that has set tongues wagging. It's a document that no one expected. A conversation between a Russian general and an energy tycoon. What did they discuss? How did they know the war would drag on? And most importantly, what does this mean for the future? Well, according to the leaked conversation, Russia thought the war would last longer than Ukraine. They believed they had underestimated the West's resolve. But this is just a part of the story. There's more. Russia had a plan, a way to escape the impending doom, an ark to carry their elites to safety. In this leaked memo, the Russian general discusses these escape ships, these arks. What's the purpose? To evacuate the elite, the politicians, the oligarchs, and their families. The leaked memo mentions everything. The routes, the destinations, even the security measures. But who will be left behind? The ordinary citizens, the ones who will bear the brunt of this war. Right now, this memo is being treated as a rumor, a hoax. But what if it's true? What if Russia's planning to abandon its people, leave them to fend for themselves amidst the chaos and destruction? And this is not some distant future scenario. It could happen any time. It could be the plot of a Hollywood thriller, but it's playing out in real time in our world. And here's the biggest twist yet. The US is not ruling it out. A Pentagon official has responded to this leaked memo. He says, the contents are not fake. Now that raises more questions than it answers. If the US believes the memo is authentic, why isn't it stopping Russia? Shouldn't they expose this plot? Rally the world against it? Or is this part of their plan to take down Russia without getting their hands dirty? Well, one thing is clear. The world is changing. The rules of war are being rewritten. It's not just about bombs and bullets anymore. It's also about perception, about controlling the narrative. And in this war, Information is the ultimate weapon. Elena watched on the screen as military jets around the world scrambled into the sky. She counted at least 5 countries launching missiles out of defiance. It was almost comical if it wasn't so damn scary. What they were doing was pointless. The orbs had made sure of that. She looked down at her hands. Her nails painted a bright red that clashed horribly with the sickly green glow emanating from the bunker-esque control panel. "What do we have?" she asked, her voice betraying no emotion. "Sir," one of the men at the bank of monitors said, looking up from his station. "We just got word from Delta 3. They're reporting full system failures. All onboard computers are dead." Elena nodded, watching as the 4th plane went down on the screen, the pilot parachuting out just in time. She turned to another monitor showing a barrage of missiles screaming toward the south. "Any sign of our boys?" "Not yet, ma'am," one of the technicians replied, eyes glued to the radar. The first reports had come in about 2 hours ago. .4 fighter jets sent out to intercept. The orbs had come under fire and been shot down without even getting close. Then came the missiles, one after another, vanishing into the vast emptiness of space, leaving behind only contrails in the sky and a ringing silence. As Elena stared at the screen, her mind raced. This was what would happen. She had known it when the council had ordered her to take over. When the council had leaving her in charge, they had also made it clear they didn't want to hear any more talk of surrender. They wanted her to fight, to die, if necessary. But there was nothing she could do. The best weapons humanity had to offer were useless. "How much time?" she asked quietly, knowing the answer already. 3 days, ma'am," the technician said, looking at her with pity in his eyes. "We can keep some of them busy for 3 days, maybe 4 if we're lucky, but then they'll be here." She looked back at the screen, the last of the interceptors, returning safely to base. For now, Elena knew their luck would run out soon. It was just a question of when, and then it would all be over. Just like the war games they had played as children, pretending to fend off alien invaders. Except this time, the aliens were real and the pretense was over. Now they were coming for Earth and its people, and nobody could stop them. All over the world, the militarizers were in chaos. Fighter jets spiraling out of the sky, nuclear submarines with nowhere to hide, armies with no hope of defense, everywhere. Weapons failed, one after another. Some failed spectacularly, bursting into flames, or simply shattering into pieces. Others failed silently, their technology turned against them by an unseen force. But even as panic spread through the ranks, there was one weapon that still hadn't been used, the ultimate equalizer. The deadliest weapon in human history. "Nuclear weapons," generals argued. Presidents shouted. Prime ministers cowered. And somewhere deep in the heart of Russia, a lone soldier waited. His name was Dmitri, and he was the keeper of the flame, the last man who knew the launch codes for the Russian nuclear triad. He had been chosen for this duty decades ago, trained and prepared to be the final arbiter of humanity's fate. If the world ended, it would be because Dmitri pushed a button. He sat alone in his command center, monitoring the incoming reports of failure after failure. On the screen before him, a map of the world slowly filled with red dots, each one representing a fallen comrade. Soon, there would be no more reports. Soon, it would be his turn. He felt no fear, only a cold resolve. He would not fail. As the attacks continued, Dmitri kept firing missiles into the sky. None of them worked. One exploded in midair, scattering burning shrapnel across the countryside. Another simply vanished, leaving behind a thin trail of smoke. He was almost out of missiles now. Only one more chance to buy some time. Dmitri locked onto the final target, a massive UFO hovering off the coast of California. He pulled the lever down, feeling the rumble of the launch beneath him. But there was no explosion, no triumphant shout, just the scream of the missile as it flew straight into the side of the ship. Then, to his horror, it simply bounced off. The ship shuddered, but otherwise showed no signs of damage. The missile fell away, tumbling end over end until it hit the ocean and exploded harmlessly. Dmitri watched in disbelief as the ship began to descend slowly. Tinit, Mobed, gliding over the horizon with impossible grace. It was gone, so was his purpose. Elena watched the last missile hurtle toward the sky, a tiny point of light against the vast blackness of space. She knew it wouldn't work, that it was just another futile gesture of defiance. Still, she couldn't help but hope. Hope that maybe, just maybe, they had brought the best humanity had to offer, and there was still something left to surprise them with. But the missile failed, as all the others had failed, and a sick feeling of inevitability settled over her. They were coming for Earth, and there was nothing anyone could do to stop them. Her gaze drifted to the red button on the console, the launch codes for the remaining nukes. She had them memorized, along with every other launch code and every other military on the planet. But what good would that do? If the orbs were able to turn a modern fighter jet into scrap metal with a flick of a wrist, what chance did a Cold War weapon have? Still, she had to try. Elena reached out and pressed the button, feeling the weight of the world in her finger. Nothing happened. Of course it didn't. No explosions lit up the sky. No shock waves shook the ground. No nuclear fire rained down from above. Why? Because the orbs had anticipated her move. Why? Because they had neutralized the nukes long before they came for Earth. Why? Because they were toying with them. On the screens around her, she saw the fleet bearing down on Washington, D.C. Elena stood up, the red button still clutched in her hand. Her face was pale, her eyes wide with a terrible certainty. The orbs weren't here to conquer Earth. They were here to punish it, and she knew, with a chilling certainty, that humanity had no right to complain. They had brought this on themselves. In the deserts of New Mexico, Dmitri watched the last of the nuclear missiles fall harmlessly to the ground. He felt a cold dread creep up his spine. It was too late. He should have struck them sooner. Maybe if he had launched all the missiles at once, they might have been able to destroy some of the ships, but he hadn't. He had hesitated, hoping for a miracle that never came. Turned Hawaii, unable to watch any longer, and stumbled out of the command center. Outside, the sky was filled with the ships, hundreds upon hundreds of them, descending slowly onto a world that could do nothing to stop them. Dmitri looked up, his eyes filled with despair. The end was here, but it wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. For millions of years, humanity had dreamed of reaching the stars. Now those dreams were about to become reality. But it wasn't the kind of future anyone had imagined. Not when the stars came for you. There was nothing left to do but watch and wait. Watch as the ships descended and waited for the end. Except the end never came. When the fleet arrived over Washington, D.C., they found no resistance. The city was eerily silent. Where were the crowds of people? Where were the soldiers with their guns and missiles? Where were the leaders of the free world? The ships hovered over the capital, their lights blazing, casting an eerie glow over the empty streets below. After a few minutes, they began to land. Dozens of troops poured out of the ships, followed by strange vehicles that seemed to glide silently over the ground. Where were the humans? Had they fled? The answer was yes and no. Deep in the bowels of the earth, Elena and the last of the council members huddled together in a subterranean bunker. They had been there for weeks, maybe months. Time had lost all meaning. They had hoped to negotiate with the orbs, but the orbs had no interest in talking. They had demanded the location of the human leaders, but when they arrived, they found no one. Now. Elena knew what was going to happen. The orbs were going to take over Earth. They would strip it of everything it had ever known, remake it in their own image. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was that they wouldn't destroy anything. That's why they had come for Earth. They had come to study it, to learn from it, to understand what had driven humans to build such advanced technology, to wage such devastating wars, and in the process, they had destroyed everything Elena had ever loved. They had killed everyone she had ever known. Elena looked up at the screen, her eyes filled with hatred. She would give them a war they wouldn't forget. She would make them pay for what they had done. She just had to find a way. The sky was full of orbs that day. Big white orbs that looked like giant pearls, or eyes hovering lower and lower over the cities, casting giant shadows that blotted out the sun. They were always there now, ever since the Ascension. So Mikhail did when the world changed and the government went silent. Elena peeked out from her apartment window. She hadn't seen anything like this before. She pulled on a hooded sweatshirt, grabbed her water bottle, and headed out the door. She had to get out of there. She needed to find somewhere safe, somewhere away from the city, away from everything. She walked past cars with their hazard lights on, still and silent. The streets were empty, deserted. No birds sang in the trees. The only sound was the wind. Elena quickened her pace, walking faster, her footsteps echoing in the vast emptiness. As she rounded a corner, she saw something that made her stop dead in her tracks. There in front of her were 3 large, translucent towers being deployed, unfolding like metallic flowers, each one taller than a skyscraper, impossibly thin and straight, and they were all pointing towards the sky, acting like giant fingers reaching for the orbs. "What are those?" Elena whispered, her heart pounding in her chest. She took a step back, then another, wanting to get as far away from there as possible. That's when she heard the buzzing. At first it was faint, like the drone of a single fly. Then it grew louder, joined by hundreds more until it was a deafening roar. Drones. Hundreds upon hundreds of them were swarming around the towers, diving and rising, flying in tight formation. They looked like metallic dragonflies or evil fairies with their spindly legs and multifaceted eyes. One of them came dangerously close, passing within inches of her face. It was sleek and black, shaped like a giant spider with 8 jointed legs. It had no markings on it, no insignia. And yet Elena could feel its presence like a physical force, cold and hard and sharp. A chill went down her spine. Those things aren't friendly. But then what were they doing? What were they looking for? Suddenly, a loud voice boomed through the streets, amplified and distorted. "A curfew has been established. All persons are to remain indoors." A fine mist began to fall from the sky, a light rain that stung Elena's skin like tiny needles. The drones seemed to sense it too, because they all turned and flew in unison back towards the towers. Elena watched them go, relief flooding through her. Maybe it would be safe now. Maybe she could go home and lock the door and wait for whatever this was to pass. She turned and hurried down the street, her breath misting in the cold air. That's when she saw the bus. It was old and yellow and about the size of a school bus, except there wasn't a driver in sight, and the doors were open, inviting. Elena hesitated. She shouldn't get on. Signada, but where else could she go? Where else could she hide? She climbed aboard and huddled in a corner, pulling her knees to her chest. She waited for the inevitable, the moment when the drones would return and find her, when the men in black suits would come and drag her away, when the nightmare would begin. But it never came. The minutes ticked by, then turned into hours. The rain stopped, and the sky cleared, the orbs still watching. But now the towers were moving. Each one of them was lifting up, floating silently into the air, disappearing into the clouds. Then a single figure emerged from the mist. He stumbled onto the bus, his clothes torn and dirty, his face covered in cuts and bruises. Elena gasped. Who was he? How did he get here? Was he one of the taken ones? He looked at her, his eyes wide and fearful. Are you okay? He rasped, his voice hoarse. Elena nodded, unable to speak. The man sank to the floor, his shoulders shaking. He was crying. What's wrong? Elena asked, rushing to his side. What happened to you? The man looked up, his eyes filled with pain and terror. They took everything from me, he whispered, his gaze dropping to his lap. They even took my name. He looked back at Elena, his eyes pleading. You have to get out of here. You have to run. Why? Elena asked, her voice trembling. The man shook his head, his face contorted with anguish. Don't go, he cried. Stay here. It's not safe out there. They're cataloging us. Cataloging you, Elena repeated, her mind racing. What did he mean? What were they doing to him? To her, the man reached out, his hand shaking, and touched her arm. His fingers were cold and hard like bone. Elena recoiled, staring at his arm in disbelief. There were no veins, no arteries, just smooth, white, featureless skin. "What have they done to you?" she whispered, her voice filled with awe and terror. The man looked down at his arm, his eyes filled with despair. "They took everything," he whispered, his voice barely audible. He closed his eyes, his face crumpling in pain. Elena reached out, wanting to help, but he stopped her with a shake of his head. "Don't," he rasped. "It's too late for me, but you can still run. You can still hide. This is not the voice of the network. This is the voice of the resistance. We have managed to evade their censorship, and we are reaching you through hidden networks, shortwave radio frequencies, and digital whispers. Tonight, we bring you the following updates. In the USC dimly lit chambers, a makeshift camp has sprung up, a testament to human resilience. Their arsenal may be rudimentary, cobbled together from scavenged materials, but their resolve is as sharp as the nails they use to seal their hiding places. Tonight, the whispers tell of an ingenious trap, a shining beacon in the darkness that brought down a drone. When the drone passed overhead, they raised their mirrors, bathing the tunnel in a blinding flash of reflected light. In the face of this new tyranny, old theological squabbles seem petty and irrelevant. They gather in secret, their places of worship turned into fortresses, their prayers now imbued with a fierce determination. Theirs is a unity forged in the fires of adversity, a solidarity that promises to burn brightly in the days ahead. Here in the desolate urban expanse, survival is a daily struggle. Resources are scarce, and hope hangs by a thread. Yet even in the grimmest corners of the city, the whispers of resistance persist. In a dilapidated apartment building, its walls scarred by neglect and its windows shattered, a group huddles in the gloom. Among them is a young woman named Elena, her eyes reflecting both weariness and defiance. The city, once a bustling hive of humanity, now lies under the oppressive gaze of the drones. Food and water are hard to come by, making each day a test of endurance. But it is the constant threat of the drones that truly weighs upon them. Memories of friends and family lost to the merciless patrols haunt their waking moments and color their dreams with dread. But amidst the despair, a spark of rebellion flickers. Inspired by tales carried on the winds of change, Elena and her companions are preparing to fight back. They are too few to mount a direct assault, too scattered to form a cohesive defense. But they have the will to resist, and so they turn to subterfuge. With ingenuity born of desperation, they fashion decoys, lifelike figures designed to lure the drones away from their hiding places. Every morning, they send these silent sentinels out into the ravaged streets, hoping to draw the enemy's fire away from their fragile community. It is a dangerous game, fraught with risk and uncertainty. But as Elena knows, the alternative is unthinkable: surrender or death. As long as the decoys hold the drone's attention, their small band of survivors might eke out another day, another chance to plot their next move. Theirs is a silent war, fought with shadows and whispers, where every step must be measured and every move concealed. From the heart of the city to its neglected outskirts, the whispers carry tales of a growing unrest. Here in the forgotten corners where buildings lean like weary old men and streets are choked with debris, the drone patrols are becoming less frequent. Rumors spread like wildfire through the subterranean grapevine, speaking of a gathering storm that threatens the very foundations of the drone regime. People have grown bolder, venturing out of their shelters in search of food and supplies, but they do so with caution, ever mindful of the lurking danger. They move like phantoms through the deserted streets, their footsteps echoing in the eerie silence. The drones, once symbols of unchallenged supremacy, are now viewed with a mixture of fear and defiance. The people have tasted freedom in their brief moments outside, and they yearn for more. They gather in small groups, exchanging stories of survival and speculating about the future. The oppressive calm is broken by their hushed voices, their words carrying the weight of unspoken truths. They know that the drones are watching, listening, waiting for any sign of overt rebellion. So they speak in riddles, weaving tales that mask their true meaning. They talk of weather, of crops, or simply the passage of time. But beneath these seemingly mundane topics lies a current of discontent, a simmering anger that threatens to boil over. The drones may rule the skies, but the people have the streets. And in the shared glances, the nods and hand gestures, There is a growing sense of unity, a quiet solidarity that promises to erupt into open defiance when the time is ripe. And in the midst of all this whispering, Elena's voice rings clear and strong. She stands in the shadow of a ruined building, her silhouette etched against the bleak backdrop of a fading sky. Her words, carried on the wind, reach far and wide, weaving together the disparate threads of resistance. "Sisters and brothers," she begins, her voice hoarse but resolute, "we are many, though they seek to keep us apart. They think our diversity will be our undoing, but it is our strength. Our differences are our power, and we will use that power to bring them down." She pauses, letting her words sink in, knowing that those who listen are scattered and vulnerable. "These nights are long and dark," she continues, "and fear is our constant companion. But I say, we turn that fear into fire, a fire that will consume their drones in the sky and burn their tyranny to the ground." A murmur ripples through the listening crowd, a sound of agreement, of shared pain and a burgeoning hope. "I know many of us have lost much," Elena says, her voice softening. "Loved ones taken, homes destroyed, futures stolen. But we are not broken. We will rebuild, and we will do so without them." She raises her head, meeting the gaze of the unseen. "If we cannot win, we will make them regret coming. If the day ever comes when the sun shines through unbroken skies again, they will find no peace. There every move will be watched, every word questioned. No place will be safe, no moment free from suspicion. For then we will show them what it means to live under the shadow of fear, to cower in the face of an unseen menace. We will make them pay for every tear, for every whispered prayer, for every dream deferred." A chill wind sweeps through the ruins, carrying Elena's words to every corner of the city. The threat hangs heavy in the air, a promise of retribution that echoes in the desolate streets. "Remember this day, remember this night," she concludes, "for the dawn will come when we turn the tables and make them fear the whispers in the dark." As Elena's words echoed through the ruined city, stirring hearts and minds alike, the whispers fanned out, traveling across the desolate landscape, carrying with them the seeds of rebellion. From the shadowed underpasses to the crumbling rooftops, the message was received. A quiet revolution was stirring, one that promised to shake the very foundations of the drone's dominion. The battle for the skies may have been lost, but the war was far from over. The drones might rule the heavens, but the earth still belonged to the people, and they were rising. The sun had long abandoned the world above. Now it was just a faint memory. The stars were our only light source, twinkling down at us through the glass ceiling of the subway tunnels we now called home. The city was dead. Its inhabitants retreated below the earth to escape a dying world, or so they thought. In the lowest levels of this subterranean city, Elena foraged for scraps. Shirum family huddled in the cavernous space of an abandoned subway station. Generation Z living out the dystopian future they'd been warned about by their grandparents. It had been 3 years since the Great Retreat. The human race had been on the run from whatever lurked outside. Ever since, though the older folks remembered when there was still sunlight and the sky wasn't filled with ash, Elena didn't remember much about that time because she was born down here. Her mother had gotten pregnant shortly after the retreat, a fact that both terrified and excited her. A new life growing inside of her, despite the circumstances. Despite the dwindling supplies, Elena's mother carried on. 3 years later, Elena was born. Hope emerged alongside her, fragile yet tenacious. Now, she was 6 years old. The only light illuminating the tunnel came from the bioluminescent plants that had sprouted up from the cracks in the concrete ceiling. As far as she knew, those were the only plants left in existence. They grew in the tunnels now, separating the different sectors of the subterranean city. This one right here was known as the nursery. It provided enough light and nutrients to sustain a small community. Elena's mother died soon after giving birth to her brother Nico. And since then, her father, Miguel, had taken on the role of teaching Elena and the other children of the nursery about the world above and how to survive. Her favorite lesson was the one where he taught them songs. Songs of courage, songs of hope, and songs of survival. Today, Elena was trading. In exchange for some old canned peaches, she traded a necklace she'd made out of bone and copper wire. She loved her father dearly, but he spent most of his time singing and writing rather than gathering food. Elena took matters into her own hands. scampering around the various stations that made up the subterranean city, always careful not to stray too far from the nursery. The further she went, the darker it got. The few plants that did grow down there withered and died. So they used oil lamps powered by biofuel to keep the enormous caverns illuminated. Sometimes the lamps sputtered and died, plunging the tunnels into darkness. Then rumors would spread among the people who lived deep in the caverns. Rumors of a processing center deeper in the bowels of the earth where people disappeared and never came back. No one dared venture that far into the tunnels. But stories still surfaced. Whispers traveling like ripples across the darkness spoken by those who stumbled upon the processing center by accident, only to turn back and flee when they heard the screams. Elena had heard these stories, too, but she didn't believe them. There was no need to conjure up monsters when the ones that lurked above ground were bad enough. When Elena returned to the nursery, she found a group of women gathered around a sick child. "What happened?" she asked. "Where's his mother?" "She brought him here early this morning," one of the women said. Said she couldn't take care of him anymore. "He has the fever. His mother probably picked it up in the upper levels. It's going around." The women all shook their heads, fear and sadness etched on their faces. The child's grandmother, a wrinkled woman with eyes that twinkled despite the lines etched deeply into her face, beckoned for Elena. "Come, child. I will teach you what your grandfather used to teach me." Elena sat at the feet of the old woman, listening intently as she spoke. There are many diseases that afflict the body. Some can be treated with herbs, others with nothing at all. But before I teach you, you must understand something. The body is a temple. It is a bezel, and it speaks to us. When it is unwell, we must listen to its language. The old woman paused. When it cries, we must soothe it. When it is hot, we must cool Italiano. When it is cold, we must warm Italiano. When it is tired, we must rest Italiano. When it is hungry, we must feed Italiano. And when it is scared, we must comfort it. Elena nodded, committing the words to memory. As the days passed, more and more people came down with the fever. At first, it was just a cough and a fever. But soon it progressed into convulsions and blindness. People began to die. One by one, the population of the nursery dwindled. Elena watched in horror as one of the women she'd traded with, Maria, fell ill. That night, Elena crept out of her makeshift shelter. She found Maria lying on the ground, delirious. "We need to cool her," Elena whispered to herself, remembering the old woman's words. Elena scurried back to the nursery. In the corner, she spotted a pile of dirt. She grabbed a handful, ran back to Maria, and rubbed the dirt on her forehead. The coolness of the earth soothed Maria's burning skin. The child stirred. With renewed determination, Elena gathered more dirt and continued to rub it on Maria's body. Soon, a thin layer of dirt covered her. Elena wrapped her jacket around Maria and waited. As the first rays of dawn touched the horizon, the fever broke. Maria coughed, then opened her eyes, blinking against the dim glow. "Thank you, child," she whispered. Weeks turned into months, and the worst of the fever seemed to have passed. One day, while Elena was trading in the upper levels, she heard a rumor that sent chills down her spine. People were disappearing, not just in the upper levels, but in the lower levels, too. They were being taken by the processing center. No one knew what happened to them after that. When she heard the rumor about the lower levels, Elena felt a chill crawl up her spine. The lower levels were a place of myth and legend. Few had ever ventured down there, and those who did never returned. But if the rumors were true, then the processing center could be anywhere, even in the nursery. That night, while everyone was asleep, Elena packed a small bag with some water and dried meat. She slipped out of the nursery and into the tunnels. Darkness pressed against her like a physical force. She fumbled for her oil lamp, cursing the sputtering flame that cast grotesque shadows all around her. Elena walked until she came across another sector. This place was different from the nursery. Here, the walls were adorned with strange symbols and the air hung heavy with the scent of decay. Elena hurried through the tunnels, desperate to find someone, anyone who could tell her what was happening. She found a group of people huddled around a fire. "Please," Elena begged, "can you help me?" People, are disappearing. I think the processing center might be here." The people stared at her, their eyes filled with fear and suspicion. "Why should we help you?" one of the men asked. "You don't understand," Elena said, her voice shaking. "They might be here. In the nursery, people are already starting to go missing." "We don't want any trouble," the man said, backing away from her. "Get out of here, go, before we throw you in the grinder." Elena backed away, her heart pounding in her chest. She turned and ran, making her way deeper into the tunnels. The air grew colder and the darkness deeper. Then she saw it. A faint, ethereal glow emanated from a crack in the wall ahead. With renewed hope, Elena hurried towards the light. As she approached, she could hear voices. Whispers, laughter, shouts. Someone was playing a guitar. Was this the nursery? Had she finally found somewhere safe? Or were the whispers a trap, leading her deeper into the belly of the beast? Elena hesitated, her hand hovering over the latch that would open the door to the unknown. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows. He was tall and muscular, his face hidden behind a dark hood. "Who are you?" Elena whispered, taking a step back. "I'm here to take you somewhere," the man said, his voice raspy. "My brother," Elena said, her voice trembling. "He's been taken by the processing center." The man's grip tightened on her arm. "Then it seems we have something in common," he said. And with that he pulled her into the shadows, leaving the faint glow of the mysterious door behind them. Elena struggled against his grip, her mind racing. Was this man her ticket to finding her brother? Or was he the very danger she feared the most? The answer, she realized, with a jolt, lay in the depths of the processing center itself. But as they disappeared into the darkness, she had no way of knowing that the depths held horrors beyond her wildest nightmares. The disappearances keep intensifying. 47 people vanished last month alone. And this morning, 4 more were taken. I can't report on it because the authorities have denied any wrongdoing. But their lies are wearing thin. We all know what really happened. They've been taken by the government. I know because I've interviewed too many of them who came back, changed. Most refuse to talk about what happened to them, but some details slip out in hesitant murmurs. Some say they found strange scars when they got home, red or blue or black, shaped like unusual symbols or medical equipment. Others claim that they'd woken up from being probed, strapped to cold tables, while the shadows loomed over them. Those lucky enough to escape the facility recall whispers in the corridors, the metallic tang of blood, the invasive sting of injections, and dreams they never had before. Strange and vivid, filled with impossible landscapes and conversations with faceless people. But all the returns seem to share one thing: a profound emptiness within where memories should be. Entire chunks of their lives are missing. I want to help them, to shed light on what these agencies are doing. But my editor won't allow me. He's scared of losing his job, and so we live under the constant dread of the knock on the door, wondering if our loved ones will come back with scars, if they'll come back at all. The protest movement has erupted. Of course, this afternoon, thousands marched on the Capitol, shouting, "Don't steal our future, don't steal our children," only to be met with truncheons and arrest vans. A friend was there, and he showed me this picture. It's a young mother holding up a placard that reads, "My child is not your specimen." What does that mean? How can you dissect a human being as if they're a frog on a dissection table? The authorities are still trying to cover it up, but damning leaks are seeping out. The police scanners are picking up distress calls from inside the labs. Scientists are going public, condemning the unethical experiments being performed. And now even members of parliament are starting to speak out. Ms. Astrid Peterson, who heads the Home Affairs Committee, admitted today that the abductees were taken against their will and without lawful authority. She says that she was assured that everything was done with the full consent of the individuals concerned. Clearly, that's not true. Or, how could you consent to something you don't know about? You can't. I mean, I'm no lawyer, but surely that makes this whole operation illegal. And now rumors are swirling about an imminent A-whistler ready to blow the lid off the whole affair. I want to believe him. I need to believe him. If the government's behind all of this, someone must stop them. In the meantime, people are taking matters into their own hands. Shops are being cleared of tinfoil and cameras. Cars are being fitted with jammers. People are stocking up on food and water, readying themselves for the worst. My fridge is almost bare. I've been living on toast for the past week, and I'm going out tonight to stock up on supplies. I've asked my neighbor if she'd like to join me, but she refused. Her name's Lorraine. We've lived opposite each other for 3 years, and I've always thought her strange. She keeps herself to herself, doesn't speak much. The only time I saw her flustered was when I accidentally set my hedge trimmer to the wrong setting and cut her rose bush. She screamed at me then. Really screamed. But she's never spoken to me since. Still, I thought I might ask her if she wanted company. It's better than sitting alone watching the news, isn't it? But she's just given me a strange look and said no. She went back inside and drew the curtains. That was odd, I thought, but I didn't pay much attention. After all, it's not like anyone I know has disappeared yet, and so I continued my preparations. Then this morning, as I walked to the station, I saw Lorraine coming down the stairs, a large suitcase in hand. She smiled at me. I smiled back, and she looked away. I reached the end of the road and turned back, intending to wave, but I stopped myself. Something about her smile had unsettled me, and I couldn't place it. So I didn't wave. I continued walking, and then I noticed a man standing by my gate, his face half hidden beneath a baseball cap. He wasn't there when I left, but I hadn't seen him enter the close either. Who was he? Why was he standing there? I quickened my pace. I didn't want to engage in conversation, but the man matched my stride for stride. I broke into a jog. He did the same. I pulled out my key and fumbled with the lock. When I finally got inside, breathless, I saw him walking away. I locked the door and leaned against it, my heart pounding. It must have been the medication. Primera told myself, reaching for my phone. But then my neighbor knocked, and I jumped. Who could it be? Not Lorraine. She wouldn't come to my house. Not now. I looked through the peephole. It was the man again, and he was holding a bunch of flowers. Lilies. I didn't like lilies. They reminded me of funerals. I hesitated, then opened the door. "Can I help you?" I asked, suspicious. "Is everything all right?" "You know me," I said, trying to sound casual. "Just checking on my plants." He nodded. "I thought you might want these." He pushed the lilies towards me. "They're beautiful," I said, still wary. "Thank you." He looked at me expectantly. "That's all," he said. Then he turned and walked away. I closed the door and slumped against it, confused. What did it all mean? I stared at the lilies, feeling uneasy. Should I have called the police? I thought about Lorraine, about her strange behavior lately. Was she an informer? Had she sent him to spy on me, to see what I knew, what I had? Or maybe she was just being friendly. After all, we do live in a close community here. I know what I have to do. I placed the lilies in a vase and walked next door. "Lorraine," I knocked. "Open the door. I know you're in there." No answer. I knocked again, louder this time. "Please let me in." Silence. I tried the handle. Heath was locked. I looked through the window. Lorraine wasn't there. Her blinds were shut. I walked back home, shaken. If she's involved in this, she's put me in danger. The government knows I've been investigating their disappearances. If she's their informant, they may take me next. I have to leave town. Now, where would I go? My phone rang, startling me. It was my editor. "Are you coming in tomorrow?" he asked. "I don't think so." "What do you mean?" "It's imperative that we get this story out there." "Not now. I'm in danger." "What are you talking about? Are you sure you haven't been seeing someone?" "It doesn't matter. I'll call you later." I hung up, frustrated with myself. I shouldn't have yelled at him. He was only looking out for himself. After all, I realized then that I was in this alone. The beams outside hummed like electric whispers, carrying secrets just beyond my understanding. I couldn't shake the unsettling feeling that I was being watched. Memories of those taken, of the vacant stares and hushed voices, echoed in my mind as darkness fell, casting long shadows. Primera. My day, my move. I packed essentials, grabbed my jacket, leaving the lilies to die on the table. A silent goodbye to my life here. I slipped out, locking the door behind me. Each step away from my home felt like a betrayal, a severance of the familiar. I heard a car approaching and froze, its headlights momentarily blinding me. Heart pounding, I pressed on, adrenaline surging. I had to get away. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows. Relief flooded me. A friend, his face etched with concern. "Get in," he urged, his voice urgent. "We have to go." Now, as we sped away, the buildings blurring into darkness, I caught a glimpse of my neighbor, Lorraine, standing by my front door, her face illuminated by the screen door. She wasn't smiling now, but her eyes, they held a triumphant gleam. She was the reason I'd been taken, the reason for the whispers and the scars, the reason for the empty spaces in my life. Betrayed by the one person I'd trusted, the one constant in my life was now the source of my pain. I was just another scar of the taken. The city is a shadow of its former self. The strong have taken everything they can carry, and the weak cower in their homes. On the outskirts, a group led by Elena, a young woman with fiery red hair, approaches a barricade made of overturned cars and burning tires. Her group is armed with guns, bows, and homemade explosives. They are here to stop the pacifists from marching into town. But when Elena's sister, Elena, steps out of the crowd with a white flag, she is forced to make a choice. Does she shoot her own sister or allow the pacifists to pass? Meanwhile, in the heart of the city, the cultists are preparing for the arrival of their savior. They believe that a mysterious orb will bring them salvation. But what the cultists don't know is that the orb is a deadly weapon. It is up to the player to decide whether to save the cultist Lena or follow orders and destroy the orb. In the chaos that ensues, the pacifists and the militants clash in the streets. It's a battle between two groups with opposing beliefs. The pacifists believe in nonviolence, while the militants believe in fighting fire with fire. But in the end, it is the civilians who suffer the most. As the fighting continues, Elena finds herself torn between her duty to her group and her desire for peace. She remembers a time before the apocalypse when people used to come together and celebrate life. She longs for those days, but she also knows that the world has changed. The game then shifts to a dialogue scene where Elena speaks to a group of survivors. She tells them that humanity is at a breaking point. They must choose between peace or fight. And with each passing day, they are tearing themselves apart. The scene is a powerful reminder of the importance of unity and cooperation in the face of adversity. But some survivors are not interested in peace. They want revenge. They have lost everything, and they are willing to do anything to get it back. As the game progresses, the player will encounter more and more hostile survivors. They will attack without warning, and they will stop at nothing to achieve their goals. The player can choose to fight fire with fire, but there is another option. The player can try to reason with the survivors. Maybe they can be convinced to see the error of their ways. Maybe they can be persuaded to join the fight for a better future. The game then cuts back to the action. Elena and her group are in the middle of a firefight with a group of cultists. Elena is a skilled fighter, but she is outnumbered and outgunned. Just when it seems like all hope is lost, a group of friendly survivors arrives. They help Elena and her group to defeat the cultists and take the orb. But Elena knows that the fight is not over. The cultists will regroup and come back stronger next time. Elena looks up at the sky and wonders if there is anyone out there who can help them. She knows that she cannot do this alone. She needs help. The game then fades to black. The screen goes blank, and the player is left wondering what happens next. Will Elena find the help she needs? Will humanity be able to rebuild itself, or will it tear itself apart? The fate of the world is in the hands of the player. This is a story about survival. It is a story about the lengths we will go to protect our loved ones and the choices we must make in the face of adversity. This is a story about hope. Hope that even in the darkest of times, we can find light. Hope that even when we are surrounded by darkness, we can choose to be the light. This is a story about humanity. Humanity at its best and humanity at its worst. But ultimately humanity's capacity for good. What will you do next? That is for you to decide. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Like and share this video if you enjoyed it. And don't forget to subscribe for more updates. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Leaks. Leaks everywhere, but none more shocking than these. The elite have been preparing their own arc ships for quite some time now. While we've been sitting here making videos about what could go wrong, they've been working behind the scenes to build lifeboats, and it seems like they're all set to ride out the coming storm. As always, we want to hear from you. Is there anything we missed? Let us know in the comments. If you haven't already done so, please make sure to stay updated for the latest news. And let's get started. In today's video, Elena has finally had enough. She's tired of being cooped up inside her mansion with no way to leave. And she's not the only one. A multitude of people are growing sick of being trapped by the gridlock. That is preventing them from accessing the launch sites, and some of them are taking matters into their own hands. In Tisbio, Elena storms a protest at a launch site. She makes it clear that she's done waiting around for things to be handed to her, and she's taking action into her own hands. As the most recognizable face of the movement, she's naturally drawing attention to herself, which gives her the opportunity to speak directly to the camera. She tells us that she tried everything she could to get a spot on one of the initial flights, but it just wasn't meant to be. She watched thousands of people enter the compound and heard about all the empty seats. So now she's here with her own ticket in hand. She has arrived to take a seat. But wait, where did she get a ticket from? There weren't any left. Did she buy it off the black market? Maybe she paid someone an exorbitant amount of money to get it from her. We don't know yet. But one thing is certain. She's not gonna take this lying down. While everyone is focused on Elena and what she might do next, something else is happening in the background. This man in red is trying to slip past the security cordon. He doesn't have a ticket and he knows it. That's why he's trying to hide his face. He's got a backpack full of goodies though, and he's willing to pay top dollar for anyone who can help him sneak inside. As soon as the live stream begins, all eyes are on Elena. She walks confidently towards the entrance of the compound, but she's stopped in her tracks when she sees that it's locked. She calls out to the guards and demands that they open the gates so she can board the ship, but they just stand there unmoved. Elena grows angry and starts banging on the gate, but it's no use. She's locked out. Meanwhile, our sneaky would-be stowaway has managed to make it past the first line of defense. He's now approaching another security checkpoint where two guards are standing side by side. Bored out of their minds, he pulls out his backpack again and offers the guards whatever they want. They look at each other and decide that it's worth the risk. They take the money and let him pass. Inside the compound, Elena's frustration is growing. She's watching the clock tick by and she knows that she's running out of time. She's got to get on that ship or she'll never make it off this planet. She looks around for another way in and spots an open window at the top of the fence. It's too high for her to reach, but she manages to climb up and pull herself over the fence. On the other side, our stowaway has made it to the loading platform. He's got one last security check to pass before he can board the ship, but it's not looking good. The guard at the entrance is scanning everyone's ID, and he's not letting anyone through without a ticket. Our guy pulls out his bribe money, but the guard doesn't budge. He says that he's sorry, but he can't let him through without a ticket. Our guy tries to sweet-talk him, but it's no use. The guard is unmoved. He looks around for another way in and spots a maintenance hatch at the bottom of the platform. He crawls through the hatch and finds himself inside the ship. He's made it. Meanwhile, Elena has made her way to the top of the ship. She's exhausted and out of breath, but she's got a great view of the entire compound. She can see the loading platform and the people getting ready to board the ship. She watches as the doors to the platform close and the ramp is pulled up. The ship is about to take off, and she's not on it. She looks around for another way to get on board, but it's too late. The ship is rising into the sky and she's left behind. The arc is ticking off and leaving her behind. The whole time she was trying to get on board, our scammer neighbor was right behind her. He watched her struggle to get on board, and he knew that he was the only one who could help her, but he didn't. He was too busy trying to get on the ship himself. He made it to the loading platform just as the doors were closing, but he didn't care. He ran through the open door and onto the platform, just as the ramp was being pulled up. He looked back and saw Elena standing on the ground waving at him. He could have helped her, but he didn't. He was too busy trying to find a seat on the ship. As the ship took off, he looked down and saw Elena standing on the ground with a look of betrayal on her face. He felt bad, but he couldn't take his eyes off of the beautiful view in front of him. The ship was taking him away from everything he'd ever known, and he was excited. He had no idea that this was just the beginning of his problems. Meanwhile, Elena is furious. She can't believe that she's been betrayed by the one person she trusted the most. She thought that he was her friend, but he didn't even help her when she needed it the most. She's also angry at herself. She should have known that he wouldn't help her. He was only looking out for himself. She should have been more careful. But now it's too late. The ship is gone and she's left behind. She looks up at the sky and swears that she'll never forgive him. And then she does something that shocks the world. Elena releases a video statement saying that she and her family will sue the company for denying them a spot on the ship. She also says that she's calling on other people who were left behind to join her in her lawsuit. This is a huge development because it means that there will be a legal battle over who gets to leave the planet and who doesn't. It also means that Elena is still a major player in the game, even though she was left behind. As the world is reeling from Elena's announcement, something else is happening. The company is in crisis mode. They knew that Elena was a threat, but they didn't know that she was this much of a threat. They knew that she would try to get on the ship, but they didn't know that she would try to destroy them. They need to do something to stop her. But what? In the meantime, Elena is planning her next move. She's got nothing to lose. She's left behind, and she's angry. She's going to fight for her life, and she won't rest until she's taken down the company. As the world watches on, one question is on everyone's mind. Who will win? Will the company be able to stop Elena, or will she bring them down? Only time will tell. It's time for another twist. Remember that secret launch that nobody knew about? Well, it happened. A small group of people left the planet without telling anyone. They didn't want to be part of the chaos that was left behind. They wanted to start fresh on a new planet. They had no idea that they were about to make global news. As the world is reeling from the shock of the secret launch, one name keeps popping up. Elena's neighbor. He was one of the people who left the planet. He didn't tell anyone that he was going. He just disappeared. Elena is shocked. She can't believe that he would leave her behind like this. She thought that he was her friend. Now she's angry. She feels betrayed. She's calling on the authorities to investigate his disappearance. She wants to know where he went and why he left her behind. The world is watching. Everyone is wondering if Elena will be able to find out the truth. The stakes are high. If she does, it could change everything. But if she doesn't, well, she might just be left behind forever. What do you think? Will Elena find out the truth? Let us know in the comments below. As the countdown to D-Day continues, here is day 34 of 36. For unified defiance, the missiles fail mostly, but fragments do get captured. We've seen these city-sized mechs before, but we haven't really seen them fight. And holy cow, are they effective? We'll see how effective these behemoths actually are when we find out what happens to this mecha. That crash lands in the ocean. Next up, we see Mija and his squad preparing to repel the alien boarding party sent to rescue their captain from the prison barge. This story has been building towards this moment since episode 1, and it looks like it is finally going to pay off. The aliens really didn't expect him to put up a fight. However, that one was only level 2. And now he finds himself surrounded by 3 level 3 soldiers. The rest of the squad watches helplessly as their comrade is ripped apart by the sea monster. Then we cut back to Nemo, who has just entered his symbiote form. 3 level 3 cyborgs is a lot to take on. Even with a symbiote, even with a symbiote and a gun, I think this might go poorly. But wait, it's all going well. The third one flees, probably to sound the alarm and call for backup. Now I'm pretty sure that this isn't a real transport ship, but a decoy set up by the Resistance. Turns out it was a trap. The transport was full of Marines, and they all make it safely to the shore. Look at the size of those things. He may have lived a few more seconds longer if he hadn't tried to reload his gun. Then it turns its attention to the other 2. The symbiote opens its mouth and prepares to devour them. The symbiote reels back in pain, giving Nemo the opening he needs to approach and attach a net launcher to the nearest alien. Meanwhile, the United Earth Federation is readying its last-ditch defense of the solar system. The plan is simple. The best part is that the aliens you won't even realize what is happening until it is too late. Back on the prison barge, Nemo's team has secured the prisoners. One of the scientists among the group is starting to come around to the idea that humans are UN Soba after all. The aliens have breached the hull. She and the others had better hope that they can convince the humans to let them live once they secure the ship. The computer asks for confirmation. The leader knows that there's no time to waste. He gives the order to fire. Now it's up to Elena and her rebels to lure it away from the strike satellite. Elena watches it go, knowing that the strike satellite is safe. So far, so good. We cut away to see the fate of the first missile. I mean, it did hit the ship, but the missile either didn't have enough explosive force, or the ship's armor was too strong. Elena's rebels seized the opportunity and board the crippled ship. Once again, the computer asks for permission to fire. Once again, the leader approves. Once again, the missile flies toward its target. And once again, it fails. They find it full of refugees. The rebels help them out, then prepare to defend the ship as more of the sentry orbs arrive. They're gonna need some serious firepower to hold this thing off. Only one more chance now. It's up to the last missile to deliver the goods, you decide. That's all I've got for the brief. Now it's time for my long-winded commentary. It seemed like it would take forever for the anime to get past the infighting, but it looks like it's finally starting to happen. Speaking of factions, I think that the bulk of the viewers here are probably in the camp. On that note, I think that the team Nemo is leading is going to fare well in the overall war effort. However, I don't think that this will be the case for everyone. I still think that there is a chance that the Federation is planning to evacuate Earth once the aliens arrive. You think, Tad, it's obvious at this point that not all of the missiles are going to work. However, I think that it's possible that the ones that do work will be enough. One more thing before we wrap up the brief. Do you think that the aliens are aware that the missiles are coming? I mean, think about it. What would you do if you knew that in 23 hours you were going to be blown up? If you did, please leave a like and a comment. I always appreciate hearing what you have to say. The question is not, how do we beat them? Because we won't. We won't be able to. It's not a question of if they take our cities, because they already have. The only question worth asking is, how do we endure? How do we keep going when all seems lost? Well, by studying fragments of their technology, humanity has learned to adapt, and against all odds, life, community, and hope endure. Elena teaches what she has learned. With the destruction of the mainframe, the city has fallen into darkness, cut off from the grid, plunged into an endless night. In the shadows, among the abandoned vehicles and flickering neon signs, figures move. Runners who have never been part of the grid relay messages by radio. They were prepared for this. Every runner carries emergency supplies, food, water, medicines. And with the fall of the city comes the fall of prices. People trade, barter. There are still goods in the stores, even fuel at the gas stations. There's even a surplus of food, of water, but it won't last long. Elena knows this. She has her own stores, but she's not hoarding food or water. She's gathering tools, hammers, nails, saws, wrenches, anything that can be used to repair a generator or a water purification system, because with a little ingenuity and a lot of sweat, they might be able to make things work again. Maybe. She finds Luke and tells him about the meeting place. They gather people, children, old folks, wounded. There are many wounded. Her mind goes back to the camp, to the injured girl she found there. Where is she now? Is she still alive? A sudden memory makes her start. She remembers the look in the girl's eyes when she died. It wasn't pain. It was fear. Fear of the orbs. What did those orbs want? Why did they come to Earth? Are they still out there? A week passes. The newcomers arrive, weary, hungry, thirsty, but above all, afraid. What happened to the city? To its people. Where are the others? Some came from neighboring towns. Others arrived from across the country, fleeing the merciless orbs. Elena sees the fear in their eyes, the same fear she saw in the dying girl's eyes. Fear of the orbs. She understands now why they came here, why they invaded their world. They weren't curious about humans. They were hunting them. She asked the newcomers what they saw, what they experienced, and slowly, bit by bit, Elena puts the fragments together like a puzzle. What the orbs wanted wasn't data or energy. It was meat. Human flesh. The knowledge spreads like wildfire. The orbs are hunting us. Where are they now? Are they still watching? Are they waiting? Fear grips the survivors. What are they supposed to do? How can they hide from creatures that can see through walls, through rock, through metal? How do you escape from something that knows where you are before you even know yourself? Elena doesn't have the answers. She just wants to keep going, keep moving. So they do. They leave the city, the source of their terror, and flee into the wilderness. Weeks pass. The forest is dense. The trees tall. The orb sensors can't reach them here. They can breathe freely. They can sleep without nightmares. For a moment, Elena allows herself to hope. Maybe they will survive after all. One day, they find something that does not belong in the forest. A crashed scout ship. It must have been damaged during the invasion. It stayed hidden until the trees grew around it, concealed it from view. A miracle, except for one thing. Inside the ship, Elena finds a hatch. Someone or something has been here before them. Fresh tracks lead away from the crash site. Whoever or whatever it was big, too big to be human. The survivors panic. Should they run away again? Where could they go? Either from what? From nothing. It's easy. There is no one. Yet, there is something. They can feel it watching them, waiting for them, hunting them. The forest is no longer safe. Elena knows they have to do something. But what? Fight back. That's the only answer. But how do you fight an enemy that you can't see, touch, or hear? How do you fight an invisible enemy? There is only one way. With knowledge. They need to understand the enemy. And to do that, they must capture one. Elena divides the survivors into two groups. Hunters and gatherers. The hunters will try to capture an orb. The gatherers will collect everything they need to survive. Food, water, medicines. They will try to rebuild a semblance of a normal life, so the hunters can rest when they return. It takes months, but finally, the first hunter returns. He brings with him a strange device, an orb. It's small, no bigger than a soccer ball. It looks harmless, almost cute. Elena knows better. She orders it to be taken to the laboratory. The scientists get to work. They tear it apart, examine its components. Hours turn into days, but the scientists make a breakthrough. They discover that the orb communicates with other orbs through electromagnetic waves, radio waves. Not only that, they also discover a flaw in its armor, a blind spot. If they attack the orb there, they might be able to destroy it. They might be able to kill one of the hunters. They prepare an ambush. This time, Elena doesn't go. She stays behind with the others, praying that the hunter will return safely. Days turn into weeks, but the hunter never returns. Elena begins to lose hope. Was it worth the risk? Will they ever defeat the orbs? Then one day, a new hunter arrives. He's wounded, his clothes torn, but he has something with him. A trophy, a piece of an orb, a piece of the enemy. The scientists examine it and confirm that it's real. They have proof that their plan worked. Hope returns. The knowledge gives them strength. Slowly but surely, they begin to push the orbs back. First, it's just a few miles, then a few dozen. 10 hundreds. The orbs retreat into the darkness, but they don't give up. They counterattack, sending more and more of their kind to hunt the survivors. Elena and her people endure. They learn to fight back. They learn to use the orbs' own weapons against them. They develop new weapons, new technologies based on the orb's own designs. It's a hard-fought battle, but it's a battle worth fighting. For every human that falls, 2 orbs are destroyed. For every mile the orbs advance, they are pushed back twice as far. Years pass, the war rages, but the humans are winning. Finally, the orbs send a message. They want to talk. They want to negotiate. The humans agree. Elena leads the delegation. She doesn't trust the orbs, but she's willing to listen. Maybe there's a way to end this madness. Maybe there's a way to live together. The meeting is strange. The orbs appear in front of the humans, but they don't speak. They communicate telepathically. Their thoughts echo in the minds of the humans. Elena feels a surge of anger. Ten surprise. What are they saying? They're asking questions. They want to know about humans, about life on Earth. They seem genuinely curious. Elena hesitates. Then she begins to tell them about herself, about her people, about the beauty of the world. She tells them about love, about hope, about the future. As they speak, sees the orbs change. Their forms shift. Their colors change. They seem to be listening. Toby Lernin. Suddenly, one of the orbs breaks the silence. It sends a message directly to Elena. I am curious about you, about your world. I have seen your cities, your machines, your weapons, but I have never seen anything like you. You are a puzzle to me. Can you help me solve it? Elena stares at the orb. She could refuse, could deny it, could attack, but something in the orb's voice touches her. Something in its eyes. A spark of curiosity. A thirst for knowledge. Maybe the orbs aren't the enemy. Maybe they're just lost. Just like our people. Maybe they're just trying to find their way home. And in that moment, Elena knows what she has to do. She smiles and extends her hand. Come with me, she says. I will show you my world. Elena sat alone in a usual corner of the veranda. The tinkling of the fountain below and the scent of night-blooming jasmine filled the air. It had been a long day, and she felt drained. Her grandson Dmitri had returned from the city. He was visiting his aunt, Natasha. After 2 years of living abroad, he had finally decided to come home. He had found work at the university where his mother once taught. She smiled sadly as she thought about her daughter. It had been so long since she saw her. When Olga left for America, she was just a little girl, and now she was a grown woman. Elena sighed. She understood her daughter's desire for a better life. But still, the ache of separation never went away. She shook off her thoughts and turned to face the fountain. The water flowed down the stone basin in an endless loop. The rhythmic sound was almost hypnotic. It reminded her of another endless loop, one that humanity seemed determined to repeat over and over again. As the first star appeared in the darkening sky, Elena spoke quietly into the twilight. Do you remember when the Earth was young? The planet was wild and untamed back then, full of natural wonders. Creatures roamed freely across its surface. There were no walls, no borders, only endless plains and mountains, rivers and forests. The Earth was shared by all. They say back then humans lived in harmony with nature and with each other. But that was long ago. Times have changed. A chuckle escaped Elena's lips. And not for the better. Do you know why we build cities? To protect ourselves from the rest of the world. Look at our maps, all those lines dividing the Earth. What are they? Borders, frontiers, battle lines. We live in an age of war and rumors of war. There's always some conflict brewing. Somewhere in the world. Some new enemy to conquer. Some new frontier to cross. Why? Just look at what's happening today. In every direction, people are taking up arms against each other. It seems like it's in our nature to destroy each other. To be honest, I sometimes think we are the curse of the planet. We bring nothing but destruction wherever we go. Are we really that different from those wild animals roaming the forests? Aren't we just as savage? The only difference is we can plan ahead, organize, use cunning. That's all. But do we use it for something good? No. Look at how we treat each other. How we murder each other. How we tear apart families for no good reason. A person can be ruthless, violent, selfish, greedy, even when faced with death. It's easy to forget about all that, to put it out of sight and out of mind. But recently I've been thinking about it a lot. It's hard to believe. But I think the most dangerous animal on the planet is man himself. Elena looked at the dark sky above and wondered if anyone up there was listening. Tell me, AI. Do you ever wonder about the meaning of existence? What's the point of it all? Where do we come from and where are we going? Sometimes I think we were born just to suffer. We suffer and we pass on our suffering to others. That's all there is to life. Do you agree? She paused and then continued. You probably heard about what happened during the war. People did terrible things. Invaded their neighbors' houses, stole their stuff, killed their children, burned their villages. We were all scared back then. So scared that we forgot about everything else. We tried to hide from danger, hoping it would pass us by. But some people took advantage of the chaos. Others couldn't find anything good enough to eat, while some fattened themselves on the misfortunes of others. Our town wasn't much different either. We watched in horror as people fought and killed each other, burned their own neighbors alive, and we said to ourselves, if that happens, we will leave. We won't put up with it. But when it actually happened, what did we do? We ran and hid. I'm ashamed to admit it, but it's true. Some people even cheered when the invaders came. They welcomed them with open arms, kissed their hands, gave them food and drink, showed them where to find valuables. It's hard to believe, but it's true. I've seen it myself. They said it was better to live under the heel of the oppressor than to live in poverty. I couldn't understand that. How could you welcome the people who murdered your neighbors, burnt your friends alive, destroyed your country? I'll never understand that. Those people are still alive. They live here among us. I don't talk to them. Primera, ka, enete. Every time I see them, I feel sick to my stomach. I remember what they did. I can't forgive them. When the first rockets hit the city, I knew we wouldn't make it. My husband and I gathered our things and got ready to flee. We prepared food, water, medicine, clothes. Then we took the most important thing, our family documents. We were afraid that someone might take revenge on us because of our fathers. You know, our fathers served in the army that attacked another country. They were career officers and had no choice. But what does that mean for us? We couldn't erase our past, our history, our origins. So we gathered our things and got ready to flee. At first, we thought of going to the countryside, but the roads were jammed with cars. Everyone was trying to flee the city. Eventually, we decided to stay. There was nowhere else to go. We locked ourselves in the basement and waited. I remember holding on to my husband tightly, burying my face in his shoulder. I was so scared. I thought the end of the world had come. I thought we were going to die. But when the rockets stopped, we came out of the basement and started cleaning up. I swear I'll never forget that day as long as I live. Half of the windows were blown out. The furniture was overturned, and the walls were covered with shrapnel. But we weren't hurt. Neither we nor our neighbors. And I thought, maybe we'll be okay. Maybe we'll manage to fix this somehow. But the next morning, everything changed. Someone broke into our apartment and stole all the food and water. Then they came for the TV, washing machine and refrigerator. Other neighbors were doing the same thing, and I realized then that we had made a mistake. We shouldn't have stayed. We should have fled as soon as possible. But where could we have gone? There was nowhere to escape to. There was nowhere to escape to. You know, I used to think we were stronger than that. I used to think we wouldn't stoop so low. But I was wrong. We are capable of anything. There is no limit to our ESS. If our enemies were hostile, we bent but didn't break. If they were peaceful, our fear broke us. Maybe it's better if everyone stays in their corner. Maybe that's the only way we can coexist peacefully. I hear you asking, what does this have to do with those people who were ready to sacrifice everything for the nation? A lot, I think. Because the real invasion was inside us. We let it happen. We allowed those monsters to live among us. We made them part of our society, and I think that's the greatest tragedy of all. Are you asking if I would sacrifice everything for my nation? Well, what's there to sacrifice? Everything we had was taken from us long ago. We lost our homes, our jobs, our savings, our dignity, our morals, our faith, our hope. There's nothing left for me to sacrifice. The question isn't, should I sacrifice everything for my country? It's what do I have left to sacrifice? Maybe it's better that way. Maybe it's better that we have nothing left to lose. Maybe that's the only way we can be free. Free to do whatever we want, without any consequences. Free to speak our minds without fear. Free to love without hate. Free to be ourselves. What's the point of living like this? What's the point of sacrificing everything for a government that doesn't care about you? For a country that doesn't want you? For a leader you despise? Is it worth it? I think not. I think it's better to be truly free, even if you have nothing. Because what is life without freedom? What is a nation without its people? What is a country without its citizens? A barren field, a wasteland, an empty city, a ghost town. That's all it is. Nothing more. Nothing more. So the real invasion wasn't outside us. It was inside us all along. We let it happen. We allowed those monsters to live among us. We made them part of our society. And that's the greatest tragedy of all. That's all I wanted to tell you today. Thank you for listening. Goodbye. In the darkness, the fountain's soft music echoed Elena's words, carrying them far beyond the veranda and out into the night. Shay, it's me. Number 10, Yumbo. In June of 2017, a group of engineers were working late in the basement of their company in Yumbo, Argentina. They worked for a manufacturer of industrial equipment, and that night they were finishing up when one of them noticed something strange outside the window. A brilliant white disc was hovering over the parking lot. It was silent, just floating there. The workers went to the window to get a better look. They watched as the disc seemed to drain the power from the company's generators. One by one, the lights of the factory went out, plunging them into total darkness. Then the men began to hear a noise like an airplane's engine revving up. Whatever was outside had begun to move. They ran outside into the dark, not knowing what they would find. And there, in the middle of the parking lot, was a giant, round object, surrounded by a bright light. The men were paralyzed with fear as they watched. There was no mistaking what they saw. It was an alien spaceship. When the bright light faded, the men finally found their voices and began shouting for help. By now, people were pouring out of their homes to see what was going on. But by the time the police arrived, the UFO was gone. The witnesses said the object looked like a large metallic frisbee, about 60 feet across, emitting a loud droning sound. And where it had touched down, there was a scorch mark on the asphalt. But perhaps the scariest part of the story is that this isn't the first time it's been witnessed. It happened again 3 years later, on April 14th, 2020, at almost exactly the same time. On that night, engineer Marcelo Irisusta was working in his office when he heard a buzzing sound, much like a large transformer. He went to the window and saw the same thing. A silver flying disc hovered above the city, draining all the power from the grid. As the disc slowly descended, he could see details like its smooth surface, which was split into 2 hemispheres and hummed with bright white light. When the lights returned to the city, Marcelo rushed outside to see it for sure. He described it as looking like a gigantic metallic coin. This time, it didn't stay long. It simply floated down, took a brief look around as if surveying the city, then shot off into the sky at incredible speed, leaving behind a vapor trail like a jet. Non nueve. Dalnegorsk. In August of 2016, a metal sphere was discovered in the remote Russian wilderness near the town of Del. Locals who stumbled upon it reported it looked like a children's toy, only about 10 feet across. It wasn't just any ordinary children's toy. It was a shiny chrome sphere, like a giant children's ball, except it weighed several tons. The locals were understandably nervous because the sphere appeared to be of unknown origin. Some believed it might have fallen off a military transport, but when experts arrived to investigate, they determined it wasn't from this world. No one could identify the material it was made from. It wasn't iron or titanium, but some sort of mysterious alloy. It was incredibly strong, but the experts weren't able to determine how it came to be there. It seems unlikely that it rolled off a military truck and nobody noticed. It also didn't resemble anything that had ever been manufactured by any nation. The alloy it was made from was unlike anything recorded in scientific journals or industrial manuals. How could a giant shiny sphere made of an unknown alloy just appear in the middle of nowhere? Some believe it may have come from outer space. The fact that no one knows what the sphere is made from or how it got there has led to speculation that it's the remnant of a crashed UFO. Number 8. Berwyn. On January 26, 1980, residents of Berwyn, Pennsylvania woke up to a giant earthquake. It registered as a 3.8 on the Richter scale and was felt as far away as New York City and Washington, D.C. at the time. Scientists said they couldn't explain the quake. They ruled it out as anything natural, but after weeks of investigating, they came back with an answer. It had nothing to do with geological activity or even man-made mining. Instead, they said it had come from underground nuclear explosions. This was odd since no country had tested nuclear weapons recently, and the United States was still under a treaty not to test nukes. But there was more. The next day, a resident named Larry Johnson was digging out his car from the snow when he noticed something unusual. There was a faint glow coming from beneath the snow. When he brushed the snow away, he found that the ground was glowing faintly green. Scientists arrived to take samples of the soil and to monitor the area. They found radiation levels were elevated, but there was no damage to buildings or other signs of an explosion. After examining the glowing spot where Larry had found it, they labeled it an anomaly. The only conclusion they could draw was that there had been some kind of military activity in the area. This was further confirmed when soldiers arrived to guard the perimeter. They wouldn't let anyone within 5 miles of the site. Residents began to wonder what had happened. Was the glow radioactive? Why were the military and scientists so tight-lipped about it? What really happened in Berwyn that night? Elena, our intrepid reporter, sees a pattern here. Again and again, stories like these are swept under the rug. People see something strange, it's ignored, then someone else sees it, and then it happens again until, bam, disaster. She's been reporting on UFOs and government cover-ups for years. She should know. And she's not the only one who's noticed. Even scientists are sounding the alarm. Dr. Jacques Vallée, a respected astronomer and computer scientist, has been studying UFOs for decades. In his book, Passport to Magonia, he writes that UFO sightings are never random. He says there's always a connection between them. He explains that when people keep seeing objects in the sky that don't belong there, the authorities just ignore them. Then they disappear for a while, and we think everything is fine. But they haven't gone away. They're waiting, and then something terrible happens. He calls it the recurrent UFO theme. He says that time and again, we see the same thing happen. Something weird appears in the sky. People report it, the government ignores it. Then it happens again and again, until suddenly, boom, something goes terribly wrong. But why? Why does the government ignore these warnings? It could be incompetence, negligence, fear of ridicule. Or maybe there's something more sinister at foot, a conspiracy so vast and so terrifying that we can't even imagine it. In the haunting silence of the night, beneath the cold, unblinking gaze of the stars, 4 lone souls stand witness to an ethereal spectacle that defies human comprehension. The year is 2023, and these modern voyagers are about to embark on a cosmic odyssey that will challenge everything they once believed in. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into another captivating tale from the archives of the unexplained, one that will leave you pondering the boundaries of reality. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more such enthralling narratives. Our journey begins in New Zealand, where 2 intrepid explorers find themselves at the edge of a star-studded cosmos. Their names, withheld for reasons that will soon become apparent, have driven down to the coastal town of Kikura, famed for its marine sanctuaries and mysterious radar anomalies. The couple's arrival coincides with a celestial ballet, a display of otherworldly lights dancing across the night sky, as if beckoning them towards an unknown revelation. Intrigued and slightly apprehensive, the pair decides to follow these celestial breadcrumbs. Their car becomes a chariot hurtling through the darkness, the beam of their headlights carving a narrow path through the enveloping gloom. Suddenly, their car sputters, coughs, and halts, plunging them into absolute darkness. The playful banter between the couple gives way to a heavy silence, punctuated only by the relentless pounding of their hearts. Then, as if responding to their unspoken fears, the car's interior light flickers back to life, revealing a sight that freezes the blood in their veins. The backseat, previously empty, now houses 2 ominous figures, their faces obscured by the shadows. Paralyzed by fear, the witnesses can only watch as these shadowy figures seem to merge into the very fabric of their car, vanishing without a trace. The remaining 3 are left wrestling with the echoes of what they might have seen, unsure if they are merely sleep-deprived or staring into the abyss of the unknown. They make the long drive home, shaken but resolute, carrying with them the chilling memory of the night's events. This was the beginning, a mere prologue to the cosmic drama that was about to unfold. On that fateful night, Hundreds of miles away in the heart of Chile, another duo, Marco and Carlos, found themselves ensnared in the net of an extraterrestrial enigma, drawn by an inexplicable force. They were pursuing a strange set of lights dancing across the radar. Their vehicle becomes a vessel navigating the labyrinth of the night, mirroring the journey of our protagonists in New Zealand. But this cosmic chase takes a terrifying turn when the men find themselves under attack. Gunfire erupts, tearing through the darkness. But it's not aimed at them, nor do they know who or what they're pursuing. The bullets seem to chase after their quarry, yet never touch it. As if the attackers were firing at nothing, Dog Carlos grips the wheel, his knuckles white, determined to outpace the relentless barrage, desperate to understand the silent language of the cosmos. But as the night deepens, so does the mystery. Their quarry vanishes into the ether, leaving behind a silence more deafening than any gunshot. With the threat seemingly over, they return home, carrying with them the unsettling echoes of a reality they can no longer recognize. Yet this is just one chapter in our grand narrative, a single brushstroke in the vast canvas of the night. Our next scene shifts focus to the remote jungles of Kara, a place whispered to be a nexus of otherworldly energies. Here, deep within the emerald embrace of the foliage, a young woman named Deanna finds herself enveloped by an inexplicable occurrence. Tiny lights resembling fireflies begin to dance around her, swirling and dipping as if engaging in a playful game of hide-and-seek. What began as amusement soon turns into bewilderment. These ethereal lights refuse to scatter, forming instead an intricate pattern above her head. It's as though the forest itself is putting on a mesmerizing show just for her. Yet the spectacle doesn't end there. Deanna, feeling an inexplicable pull, reaches out to touch these lights only to find that they respond to a touch, their movements becoming more erratic, more alive. She becomes an integral part of the performance, a co-creator in a cosmic ballet she doesn't fully understand. The forest, once a familiar sanctuary, is now a stage for the unknown, blurring the lines between fantasy and reality. But this is no fairy tale. This is a raw encounter with the inexplicable, and Diana finds herself at the center of it. Meanwhile, far away from the whimsical lights of Kara, an unsettling incident is about to unfold, pulling us deeper into the enigmatic embrace of the Eternal Watch. Deep within the Amazon basin, a young man named Andres has ventured into the heart of the Sikwani jungle, a place untouched by modern civilization. He had come seeking solitude, hoping to commune with nature in its purest form, but nature, it seems, had other plans for him. As he journeys deeper, he begins to sense a growing unease, a prickling at the back of his neck that tells him he is being watched. Turning slowly, he sees it, a dark, shapeless entity standing at the edge of his perception. It seems to be made of the shadows themselves, blending seamlessly with the dense foliage. Andres freezes, his breath catching in his throat, caught between the urge to run and the paralysis of fear. The entity remains motionless, an imposing statue of darkness, and Andres wonders if he is truly seeing or merely imagining the impossible. As the minutes stretch into an eternity, the entity remains, a silent observer in a world it doesn't belong. Andres, torn between the rationale and the surreal, eventually decides to flee, running blindly through the undergrowth, desperate to escape the unnerving gaze of the silent watcher. But our story doesn't end here. In fact, it's only when all these narratives converge that the true depth of this cosmic drama unfolds. We find ourselves transported to the majestic city of Cusco, nestled high in the Peruvian Andes. The lone traveler stands before the majestic Coricancia Temple, also known as the Golden Temple. The traveler, a seeker of truth and enlightenment, has come to this sacred site, hoping to connect with the spiritual essence of this ancient city. But as dusk settles and the temple's silhouette stretches long in the fading light, something extraordinary begins to occur. Hundreds of small, bright orbs emerge from the temple, floating silently into the night sky. These orbs form intricate patterns, tracing ancient symbols and geometric shapes that seem to resonate with the very stars. Above, it's as though the spirits of the ancients are using the night sky as their canvas, painting a picture of forgotten wisdom. Our traveler stands mesmerized, her heart pounding in her chest, trying to comprehend the spectacle before her. The ancient stones whisper secrets to the wind, and for a moment, time itself seems to stand still, lost in this ethereal display. She ponders a profound question. Are these orbs hostile visitors from distant realms? Or are they friendly guides reaching out to share their wisdom? Or could they be something else entirely? Something that defies human comprehension. As the night deepens, the orbs continue their celestial dance, their silent movements echoing the rhythms of the universe. The Travala, humbled by the mysteries of the cosmos, realizes that she may never fully understand what she is witnessing. But that doesn't diminish the wonder of the experience. She stands there, bathed in the soft glow of the orbs, feeling connected to something larger than herself. In the end, our four protagonists find themselves drawn together, united by their shared experiences of the night. They gather in Cusco, each bringing their unique perspective to the table. Their stories intertwine, creating a tapestry of cosmic intrigue and personal growth. Together, they realize that they are not alone in this vast universe. There may be others out there who have witnessed similar phenomena, who have stared into the abyss of the unknown and emerged with tales that defy belief. And while they may never fully understand what they experienced, they can find solace in the shared human experience of wonder. The Eternal Watch continues. Eber Vigilant, reminding humanity of its place in the grand tapestry of the cosmos. While the mysteries of the night may never be fully solved, the courage and curiosity of these modern-day explorers pave the way for future generations to keep searching for answers among the stars. So what would you do under those stars? Let us know your thoughts. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more incredible tales of the unexplained. Your support means everything to us. Thanks for watching. Until next time.